Welcome to Industry Insights. Today I'm talking to Austin Welch, co-founder of Sage Media. Hi Austin, it's great to have you today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks. My name is Austin Welch. I'm a co-owner at Sage Media, and what Sage Media specializes in is creating emotionally engaging training programs to drive behavior change. So a lot of our focus has been on everything from leadership and ethics to anti-harassment. And obviously, for the past few years, we've been doing a lot of work within food safety culture, and specifically the people side of food safety culture. And the quickest, easiest way I explain what it is that we do is if you imagine a Venn diagram and Sage Media is in the middle, the three things that really kind of create what we do is a mix of learning design and storytelling and film production. We leverage, storytelling is our main way of teaching. And then the third one is cognitive science. So we leverage a lot of research from the large branch of cognitive science, which is psychology, sociology, philosophy, linguistics. And we leverage that research to inform how we design both our training programs as well as how we create our films that support those training programs.
That's great. And I've seen several of your films, and so I was really happy to have you today on my show. And we're going to talk about food safety culture, as you already mentioned before. So food culture, that is the topic currently, and everyone's talking about it, and almost everyone you ask has his or her individual definition of it. So what would be your personal definition of food safety culture?
So I'm not going to leverage my own because I feel that there's been a lot of great work and research around this topic. And the GFSI position paper on food safety culture, I think, has a great definition, because I've heard multiple definitions and sometimes I feel they're lacking in some areas. And even when I was out at a conference recently, I noticed that there was two different people from the same organization in two different sessions, and they both had different definitions of food safety culture. And I'm like, well, to me, that's problematic. We're an industry that needs to create a cohesive vision and definition of this because of the fact that it is a somewhat nebulous topic. So within the GFSI position paper, the definition is that it's the shared values, beliefs, and norms that affect mindset and behavior toward food safety in, across, and throughout an organization. There's a lot of things that is a very succinct but also very impactful definition, because when you talk about shared values, beliefs, and norms, and really the word there that I think is really important is norms, right? Because they talk about food safety culture is what people do when no one is watching. And that is that's the norm, right? I do that no matter what. And then it also, that says that affects mindset and behavior toward food safety. And that's one of the big things we're looking at all the time is what are the behaviors driving food safety? And then the final part is in, across, and throughout an organization. So a lot of the work that I do is around leadership, right? So starting in the upper echelon of the organization and saying, okay, well, how is leadership driving food safety culture? And then how does that trickle down through middle management and then all the way down to the front line? Food safety culture is not something that just happens on the front line. It's not something that just happens in the boardroom. It is an entire way. It is a culture, just like there's an American culture and there's a German culture. And we have these ways that we have developed of living that have worked for us. And the same thing is true for food safety culture.
Yeah, and so it makes a ton of sense to have two people from the same company give the same definition of food safety culture. So yeah, I see what you mean.
And it ties, and another great thing is that whenever we are developing these training programs and these stories, we always begin with a core premise, right? And the core premise is simply what is the statement you want to prove or disprove as a result of your training or your film, right? So it's like, if I want to prove that distraction leads to disaster, then I'm going to create a story that supports that statement. And so the definition of food safety culture is that core premise, right? It's what are we all working towards so that we know that we are proving or disproving this statement or this hypothesis.
Yeah. So would you say that the definition or the most important topics in food safety culture have changed over the years? And if so, how?
So I will say that I am a relative newcomer to the industry. I've been working in the food industry for about 4 years, and this is obviously a topic that goes back much further than that. What I have seen through, the earlier books that I've read, the earlier research up until now, is that food safety culture seems like it started, along the lines of process, procedure, documentation, best practices, and which was great that that foundation was laid. And then now we're moving into this scarier territory of like human behavior, right? Yeah. And so, okay, now we know what needs to happen. How do we make it happen? And it's the same thing that we see with the GFSI position paper, right? It's a great document that says, here are the 5 pillars, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't really provide a plan to move forward with that. So that's where I think we are now, is how do we develop the strategy to execute this great research that we have? Yeah.
And also food safety culture is way more than just a HACCP plan that every company has to come up with. I mean, there's way more to it. You usually have a HACCP plan, of course, but then it's more about, as you said before, it's more about people and how they carry out the norms when no one's watching and when there is no audit happening. So, it's the daily things that people do, and making sure from management level all the way down that everyone understands the individual culture of that specific company and is able to work on that and to live on that. And I also think one big part is being allowed to make mistakes, to fail, and to learn from that. And that, I think, in a lot of companies still needs to be established, because that is still a topic.
That is a huge topic, and that is a topic I'm very fascinated with, and I've actually been doing a lot of research on the past few years. And this ties back into years ago, I was asked to create an anti-harassment program for a company. And that led me down this long rabbit trail of trying to find out, well, why is anti-harassment training so bad, right? And also, why is it so ineffective, right? Like we can look, and empirically we see in the United States, year over year, is the same amount of anti-harassment claims. So we were like, okay, well, something's not working here. And that led me into research into bystander intervention, which I think is an extremely important topic for the front lines in food, right? How do we get people to speak up whenever they see something? But the reason that so many people don't is because they don't feel that psychological safety to speak up, right? The culture does not promote that. And I'll do a shameless plug because it happens to be sitting right here on my stack of books. But this is I highly recommend this book. This is The Fearless Organization. It's by Amy Edmondson. She's a professor at Harvard. She's the person who coined the term psychological safety. And in this book, she outlines, here's how we create this culture where people will feel empowered to speak up. And much of it comes back to it, they have to feel safe, and that there's not going to be some form of retaliation, or that if there's a mistake made, that like, oh my gosh, my job is at stake.
Yeah, definitely. And that is also what leads me to my next question or statement. Implementing food safety culture within a company, as we talked a little bit before, is it's difficult because it has to come from management level. And if not everyone's on board, or if you have different opinions or different definitions, as we also had before, that makes it difficult for people. And usually people in the food safety professionals they have such a huge workload on their shoulders. And then also, encouraging and empowering their staff to live up to that food safety culture and implement that is difficult sometimes. It's time consuming, and you have to have your management be on your back and support you. So do you have any suggestions on how to best implement that in a company?
Yeah, so this is something that Neil Kuhl from BSI has talked a lot about, and I wrote an article about this a couple of years ago, which is, don't go it alone, right? So, you know, anybody can begin the process of creating, a positive food safety culture. But the way to actually make that happen is to get as many people behind that as possible. There's some great research from John Cotter on change management, and basically, a lot of what I learned from Cotter, I just translated over into food safety culture. It's the same process of change management and how to lead large scale change programs.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the lack of time, that's a that's a tough one. Because that's an area that there's a couple areas around food safety culture that I just don't have. I don't have a great answer for. There's elements around pay, right? I mean, paying your people a livable wage, regardless of their position, is a part of food safety culture. I don't have a say in that. How much time, people are committing, per week, is also a critical element. So those are tough questions that I think requires a conversation with human resources. And that's why you create these food safety culture coalitions, because it's everybody, right? I need people from marketing. I need people from communications and HR, mergers and acquisitions, right? We've seen what happens when M&A starts to bring in, unvetted companies into a portfolio. So all of those people will provide the answers, hopefully, that fit within the company's culture that you already have.
Yeah, right. And so we can probably, as a summary, we could say it's a good thing that it's a current topic that's out there right now and needs still a lot of decision making and development and thoughts, really, about how to best implement and how to protect the consumer, how to ensure that food is safe and that people feel safe if they see the need to change things, change processes within their company. Just empower them, give them the strength and the assurance that they can speak up, that they will be supported, and just make them powerful, and therefore have quality food and safe food and protect all the consumers out there, no matter whether they are in the US, in Germany, wherever, in Europe, no matter where.
Exactly.
And borders are open, so protecting one country, we protect all the others as well.
Definitely. And I think, one of the big ones that I'm starting to try to share more information and content around is understanding motivation, right? So there's some really great research around motivation theory. And, because that's the question, is how do we connect with, if I'm running a company of 40,000 employees, how do I connect with every one of them in their own way? And that's, we have to find these global motivators as opposed to like individual motivators. And so that's a whole other really interesting topic on, intrinsic motivation and what that means, from everything from leadership styles down to, how you're creating training programs.
So there's a lot of material for further conversations out there, Austin.
Definitely.
But for now, I think, we covered food safety culture, and thank you very much for all your interesting insight information and your thoughts. Thanks for sharing that with us. And thanks for taking the time to participate in this interview. And have a great day, and looking forward to hopefully meeting you next year at the IAFP meeting. That would be really great.
Definitely. Thanks for having me. This has been great.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.
This was today's episode of Industry Insights. My guest, Austin Welch. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you soon. Bye.